The cargo manifest said medical supplies and engine parts. Derek Hayes never questioned manifests anymore. 20 years hauling freight across the outer rim taught him that curiosity only complicated things. His ship, the Wandering Star, hummed steadily as he punched coordinates into the navigation panel. 3 more jumps, and he would reach Port Haven, collect his payment, and maybe afford those new heat shields that a blip appeared on his scanner. Then another. Derek frowned. Distress beacons did not usually cluster like that. He checked his fuel reserves and sighed. The beacons were pulling at something deep in his chest, some stubborn part of him that refused to look away from suffering. His ex-wife always said that quality would bankrupt him someday. He changed course. The asteroid field appeared on his view screen like a graveyard of stone. Debris floated between the rocks. Metal fragments caught starlight and threw it back in jagged pieces. Derek slowed his approach and activated his scanning array. The energy signatures made no sense. Drackery technology, but all wrong. Scattered, dying, Drackery ships never died like this. The Dragon people built their vessels to last centuries. Their engineering was flawless, their pride absolute. Finding one of their ships in pieces felt like discovering a shattered diamond. Derek maneuvered carefully through the debris field. His hands moved across the controls with practiced ease. The largest piece of wreckage came into view. It still held atmosphere according to his sensors. Something inside was generating heat. Something alive that he docked with the wreck and suited up. The airlock hissed as pressure equalized. Derek stepped into darkness, broken only by emergency lighting. The corridor stretched ahead, walls scorched black. This was not an accident. Someone had set charges. Someone had wanted this ship destroyed completely. His boots clanged on metal grating as he moved deeper. The distress signal grew stronger. It led him past crew quarters and through a navigation bay. Everything valuable had been stripped away. Everything except what they wanted dead. The waste disposal chamber lay at the end of a service corridor. Derek almost missed it. The door hung half open, twisted metal catching shadows. He squeezed through, and his helmet light swept across the small space that the pile of cloth moved in the corner. Derek froze. The cloth shifted again, and something small emerged. Scales caught the light, deep blue fading to silver. Wings unfolded, too thin and fragile. A tail dragged behind, bent at an unnatural angle. Eyes opened, golden and afraid. A dragon. A baby dragon no bigger than a house cat. Derek had seen Drackery before. They towered over humans, magnificent and terrible. Their diplomats moved through treaty halls with the confidence of apex predators. Their warriors were legends. But this tiny creature shivering in the trash did not match any of those images. The hatchling tried to crawl backward and whimpered. The sound was so small, so broken. Derek knelt slowly. He kept his movements gentle despite the suit's bulk. The dragon watched him with eyes that expected pain. Burns covered the small body. Old bruises showed purple beneath the scales. One wing hung crooked where bones had healed wrong. This baby had been hurt long before being thrown away. Derek accessed the ship's computer through his wrist display. The translation software worked through layers of Drackery data encryption. What he found made his stomach turn. The logs were detailed, clinical. They described the hatching of 4 offspring to a noble family. 3 perfect specimens, 1 defective. The defective one showed wing asymmetry and tail deformity. Genetic testing confirmed the imperfections would not correct with age. The family chose honor over shame. They would destroy their ship and all evidence rather than return home with failure. Derek looked at the hatchling again, at the way it trembled, at the resignation in those golden eyes. This baby expected death because everyone it had ever known taught it that death was all it deserved. Something hot and angry rose in Derek's chest. He had hauled cargo across dangerous space. He had negotiated with pirates and dodge patrol ships. He had watched colonies starve while rich worlds hoarded supplies. But he had never seen cruelty this pure, this calculated. He reached out slowly. The hatchling flinched but had nowhere to run. Derek's gloved hand touched the small head gently. The dragon went very still. "Hey there, little one." Derek said softly. His voice crackled through the suit speaker. "I am not going to hurt you." The hatchling made a sound somewhere between a whimper and a question. Derek carefully scooped the tiny body into his arms. It weighed almost nothing. He could feel each fragile rib through the scales. When was the last time this baby ate? Derek carried his cargo back through the wrecked ship. The hatchling stayed quiet against his chest. It radiated cold despite the scales. Dragon babies needed heat, he remembered reading somewhere. They needed warmth and food and safety. Back on the Wandering Star, Derek unsealed his helmet and looked down at what he had rescued. The dragon stared back. Its breathing came quick and shallow. Fear and confusion painted clearly across features too young to hide emotion. Derek grabbed a thermal blanket from the emergency supplies. He wrapped the hatchling carefully, making sure the damaged wings stayed supported. The baby did not fight. It just watched with those enormous golden eyes. "We need to get you to a medical station," Derek said. He strapped into the pilot's seat with the bundle in his lap. New Terra Outpost is closest. They have a doctor who does not ask too many questions. The hatchling shifted slightly. A small sound escaped, barely audible. Derek looked down and saw the dragon tucking itself tighter into the blanket's warmth. Trust and terror mixed in its expression. Derek set course for New Terra. His hand shook slightly on the controls. He had no idea what he was doing. No idea how to care for a dragon baby. No idea what would happen when the Dracari realized one of their discarded children still lived. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. He would not let this baby die alone in the dark. New Terra Outpost emerged from the black like a cluster of lights strung together by hope and stubbornness. The station orbited a gas giant nobody wanted, which made it perfect for people who preferred privacy. Derek guided the Wandering Star toward the docking bay, the dragon bundle still cradled in one arm. The hatchling had not moved much during the journey. Sometimes it shivered. Sometimes it made small sounds that broke Derek's heart. He tried offering water from a squeeze bottle. The dragon just stared at it like the concept of being offered anything was foreign. Docking clamps engaged with a heavy thud. Derek stood carefully and adjusted his grip on the blanket. The hatchling's eyes followed his movements, always watching, always waiting for the hurt to start. "Come on, little one," Derek murmured. "Let's get you fixed up." The medical bay sat 2 levels down from the docking ring. Dr. Rachel Ford ran the facility with the same practical efficiency she applied to everything. She had patched Derek up more times than he could count. Knife wounds, radiation burns, that incident with the Centauri trader, and the exploding fuel cell. Rachel never asked questions that did not relate to treatment. She looked up from her desk when Derek entered. Her expression shifted from greeting to concern in half a second. "What do you have there?" she asked. Derek pulled back the blanket. Rachel's eyes went wide. She crossed the room in 3 quick strides and gently took the bundle from his arms. Her hands moved with the sureness of someone who had mended countless broken things. "This is a Dracari hatchling," she said quietly. "A very sick Dracari hatchling." "Where did you find it?" "In the trash," Derek said. "Literally in the trash. Its family tried to kill it." Rachel's jaw tightened. She carried the dragon to an examination table and laid it down with infinite care. The hatchling tried to curl into a ball. Its damaged tail wrapped around its body in a mockery of protection. "Hey there, sweetheart," Rachel said softly. She pulled on examination gloves and activated a medical scanner. "Nobody here is going to hurt you. We're going to make you feel better." The scanner hummed as it passed over the small body. Data flooded across Rachel's display. She studied the readings, and her frown deepened with each passing second. "Malnutrition," she said. "Severe. Multiple fractures, most of them old and healed incorrectly. Burns from energy weapons. Signs of repeated physical trauma." She looked at Derek. "This baby has been abused for weeks, maybe months." Derek felt rage settle cold in his bones. "Can you help it?" "Him," Rachel corrected. She checked the scanner again. "The hatchling is male. And yes, I can help him. But Derek, do you understand what you have done? The Dracari do not let their young go, especially not ones they have decided to eliminate. They threw him away," Derek said flatly. "They destroyed their own ship rather than bring him home. That makes him nobody's property. Rachel studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded and turned back to her patient. I will need to synthesize some medications. Dracary physiology is different from anything I usually treat. It will take time. How much time? A few hours. Maybe more. She glanced at the hatchling. He needs nutrients immediately. And warmth. Dragon babies regulate temperature poorly when stressed. Derek helped her set up a thermal pad beneath the examination table. The dragon watched every movement with those huge golden eyes. When Rachel approached with an 4-needle, the baby tried to scramble backward. A weak sound of pure terror escaped him. Shoo, Rachel soothed. This is going to help. I promise this is going to help. Derek moved to the table's edge. On impulse, he offered his hand. The hatchling stared at it. Slowly, so slowly, a small clawed paw reached out. Cool scales touched Derek's palm. The dragon held on like a lifeline. Rachel inserted the 4 with practiced skill. The hatchling flinched but did not let go of Derek's hand. Nutrients began flowing into the tiny body. Minutes passed. The dragon's breathing slowly evened out. Some of the tension left the small frame. There we go, Rachel said. That's better, isn't it? The hatchling made a sound that might have been agreement. Its eyes were starting to close. The combination of warmth and food and safety was overwhelming a body that had known none of those things. Derek stayed where he was, hands still offered. He watched the dragon fight sleep. Watched fear war with exhaustion. Finally, exhaustion won. The small body went limp and breathing deepened into something almost peaceful. He is asleep, Rachel said quietly. First real sleep he has probably had in a long time. Derek carefully extracted his hand. The dragon's paw twitched, but did not wake. He stepped back and ran both hands through his hair. What am I supposed to do with him? Derek asked. Rachel raised an eyebrow. You can notify Dracary authorities. Tell them you found their lost property. You know I cannot do that. Yes, Rachel said. I know, which means you just adopted a baby dragon, Derek Hayes. Congratulations. The absurdity of it almost made Derek laugh. I haul cargo. I live in a ship the size of a closet. I have no idea how to raise a child, let alone a dragon child. Then I suggest you learn quickly. Rachel pulled up a chair and sat down heavily. Because that baby imprinted on you the moment you showed him kindness. See how he held your hand? Dracary hatchlings bond early and bond hard. You are his person now. Derek looked at the sleeping dragon, at the way the small chest rose and fell, at the crooked wing and bent tail that some family had decided made life not worth living. He needs a name, Rachel said. Derek thought about it, about the tiny sounds the dragon made, about how small and fragile he was. Pip, he said finally. His name is Pip. Rachel smiled. Pip it is. News traveled fast on a station where everyone knew everyone else's business. By the time Pip woke up from his medically induced rest, half of New Terra knew about the dragon baby in the medical bay. Derek sat beside the examination table, reading through xenobiology databases on a borrowed datapad. He looked up when small claws clicked against metal. Pip was sitting upright, head tilted in confusion. The 4 had been removed while he slept. The thermal blanket was tucked around his body. He looked at Derek and made a questioning chirp. Hey there, Derek said softly. You are safe. Remember me? Golden eyes blinked slowly. Recognition flickered across the small face. Pip's tail uncurled slightly. Not relaxed, but less terrified than before. The medical bay door hissed open. A woman entered carrying a tray that smelled like cooked meat. She was younger than Derek, with dark hair pulled into a practical bun. Her maintenance uniform had grease stains on both sleeves. I heard we had a special patient, she said. Figured he might be hungry. Derek stood. You did not have to do that. Sure I did. She set the tray on a side table and smiled at Pip. Hi there, little guy. I am Amy. I teach kids on this station when I'm not fixing things. Brought you some dinner. Pip's nostrils flared. His gaze locked onto the meat. Hunger and suspicion fought for control of his expression. The hunger won. He leaned forward, then stopped and looked at Derek, asking permission. Go ahead, Derek said. It is yours. Amy pushed the tray closer. Pip snatched a piece of meat and retreated to the far corner of the table. He ate like someone who expected the food to be taken away. Fast and desperate. Poor baby, Amy whispered. How long has he been starving? Too long, Derek said. They watched Pip eat until the tray was empty. The hatchling licked his claws clean and then looked at the humans with something that might have been gratitude. He chirped again, a different sound this time. Softer. You are welcome, Amy said. She glanced at Derek. Commander Walsh wants to see you. Soon as possible. Derek's stomach sank. Commander Walsh ran New Terra with a firm hand and flexible morals, which was why the station worked. But she also played politics when she had to. What does she want? Probably to discuss your new dependent. Amy knelt beside the examination table. Mind if I stay with him? He might not like strangers. Then we will just sit quietly together. Amy pulled out a small book from her pocket. I have pictures. Kids like pictures. Derek left them there. Pip watching Amy with cautious curiosity while she showed him colorful drawings of Earth animals. The walk to Walsh's office felt longer than it should. Commander Walsh looked up from her desk when Derek entered. She was a woman who had seen too much of the galaxy's dark side and decided to carve out one small bright corner. Her office reflected that. Practical furniture. No decorations except a photo of her husband who died in a mining accident. Sit, she said. Derek Saturday. You brought a Drackery hatchling onto my station, Walsh said. One that appears to have been deliberately discarded. Do I have that right? Yes. Do you have any idea what kind of diplomatic mess this could create? Probably a big one, Derek admitted. But I could not leave him to die. Walsh leaned back in her chair. No, I suppose you could not. Rachel sent me the medical reports. What was done to that baby is criminal by any reasonable standard. She paused. Problem is, the Drackery do not see it that way. To them, culling imperfect offspring is cultural tradition. Sacred duty. They will want him back. To kill him. Yes. I will not let that happen, Derek said. Walsh studied him for a long moment. You understand that protecting a Drackery hatchling could damage our trading relationships? Could bring sanctions down on this entire station. I understand. You understand, and you're going to do it anyway. Yes. Walsh almost smiled. You always were stubborn. It is one of your few redeeming qualities. She pulled up a display on her desk. Here is what we're going to do. The baby stays for now. We claim we're trying to locate his family. That buys us time. Meanwhile, you figure out what you want long term. I want him safe, Derek said. That is what I want long term. Then you better prepare for a fight. Because sooner or later, the Drackery will come looking. Derek returned to the medical bay to find Pip asleep in Amy's lap. The teacher sat very still, one hand resting gently on the dragon's back. She looked up when Derek approached. You try to stay awake, she whispered. But he is so tired. Poor thing just collapsed. Derek looked at the small dragon. At the way Pip's claws gripped Amy's shirt even in sleep. At the first real peace he had seen on that tiny face. Thank you, he said. He is a sweetheart, Amy said. Once you get past the fear, he let me read to him. Seemed to like the pictures of cats. Over the next few days, a pattern emerged. Derek spent his time learning everything he could about Drackery hatchlings. Rachel monitored Pip's recovery. Amy visited every afternoon with food and books. Other station residents stopped by to peek at the baby dragon. Most brought gifts, blankets, toys. One engineer, named Luis, built a small heated bed because the examination table seemed uncomfortable. Pip began to relax. He still flinched at sudden movements. Still watched doors like he expected monsters to come through. But he also started to explore, started to play with the toys Amy brought, started to make sounds that were almost like laughter when Derek tickled his belly point one evening. Derek sat reading next to Pip's heated bed. The dragon had been unusually quiet all day, just watching, thinking whatever thoughts filled the baby's mind. Stay. Derek looked up sharply. The word was small and uncertain, spoken in heavily accented standard. But it was a word. Pip's first word. Yes, Derek said. His throat felt tight. I'm staying. I'm not going anywhere. What? Pip asked. The effort of speaking clearly exhausted him. Broken. Derek set down his datapad and moved closer to the bed. You are not broken, Pip. You are different. And different is beautiful. Pip's eyes searched his face, looking for lies, finding only truth. The small dragon made a sound like a sigh and curled up tighter in his blanket. Father, Pip asked quietly. Derek felt something crack open in his chest. Yes, he said, if you want. Yes. The Drackery ships arrived 3 weeks later. 3 elegant vessels that looked like they were carved from obsidian and rage. They held position at the edge of the system, broadcasting formal diplomatic requests. Commander Walsh received the messages and forwarded them to Derek with a 2-word note. They know. Derek sat in his quarters with Pip curled on his lap. The dragon had grown stronger. His scales shone brighter now. His movements carried more energy. But he was still so small, still so fragile. What happens now? Pip asked. His standard had improved rapidly. Dragons learn language fast when someone bothered to teach them. Now we talk to them, Derek said. Explain that you are staying here. Pip's claws tightened on Derek's shirt. They will make me go back. No, they will not. How can you stop them? Derek looked down at his son, at the fear in those golden eyes. Because I am your father, and fathers protect their children. The meeting took place in the station's main conference room. Commander Walsh sat at the head of the table. Derek took a seat beside her. Rachel and Luis attended as well, representing medical and engineering. Across from them sat 3 Drackery representatives. Envoy Kalas led the delegation. He was enormous, even for his species, scales the color of midnight. His eyes held the kind of certainty that came from never being questioned. The 2 warriors flanking him looked like they were carved from stone and violence. We have come for our property, Kalas said. His standard was perfect and cold, a genetic sample that was properly disposed of. You have interfered with internal Drackery matters. We found a dying child, Walsh said calmly. We provided medical care, as required by galactic humanitarian law. We are still attempting to locate the child's family. Kalas's tail lashed once. Do not play word games with me, Commander. The defective hatchling must be returned for proper elimination. Its continued existence brings shame to a noble bloodline. Derek felt rage building behind his teeth. He forced his voice to stay level. That child has a name. His name is Pip, and he is a person, not property. It is a failed genetic experiment, Kalas said. An abomination that should have never drawn breath. Return it immediately. No. The word hung in the air like a challenge. Kalas's eyes narrowed. You refuse a formal diplomatic request. I refuse to hand over my son to be murdered, Derek said. Yes, your son. Kalas made a sound that might have been laughter. You are human. It is Drackery. It cannot be your offspring. Family is more than genetics, Derek said. He is mine because I choose him. And he chose me. The conference room door opened. Pip stood in the doorway, Amy behind him. The dragon baby had insisted on being present despite Derek's protests. He walked forward on unsteady legs until he stood beside Derek's chair. The Drackery warriors recoiled slightly. Kalas stared at the hatchling with undisguised disgust. It should not exist, he said quietly. Pip looked up at the massive envoy. Fear shook his small frame, but he did not run. Why, he asked. Why do I not deserve to live? You are imperfect, Kalas said. Your existence weakens the bloodline, threatens the genetic integrity of our species. My wings are different, Pip said. My tail is bent, but I can think. I can learn. I can feel. He looked at Derek. I can love. Does that not matter? Sentiment is weakness, Kalas said. We Drackery are strong because we eliminate weakness before it spreads. Luis leaned forward. You call it strength. I call it fear. You are so afraid of being less than perfect that you murder babies. One of the Drackery warriors growled. Walsh held up a hand. Gentlemen, we are here to find a solution, not to exchange insults. The solution is simple, Kalas said. Return the defective unit. We depart. Relations between our peoples remain intact. And if we refuse, Walsh asked, then you choose to harbor stolen property. The Empire will respond appropriately. Trade restrictions, economic sanctions, possibly military action if you continue this offense. Rachel stood suddenly. I have spent 3 weeks caring for this child. I have documented every injury, every sign of abuse. If this is how the great Drackery Empire treats its young, then maybe the galaxy needs to know that. Kalas's scales rippled with anger. You would dare judge our culture? I judge cruelty wherever I find it, Rachel said. Species does not matter. Hurting children is wrong. It is not a child. It is a mistake that must be corrected. Pip stepped forward. His voice was small but clear. I'm standing right here. I can hear you. I am real. I am alive. Do I not get a choice in what happens to me? Kalas looked down at him. You are too young to understand what is at stake. Your deformities could be passed to future generations. One weak link endangers the entire chain. Then I will not have children, Pip said. Problem solved. I just want to live. I just want to be with my father. That human is not your father. He saved me when my real family threw me away. He fed me when I was starving. He held me when I had nightmares. Pip's voice cracked. What does that make him if not my father? Silence fell across the conference room. Kalas stared at the small dragon. Something flickered in his eyes. Not sympathy, but perhaps uncertainty. Walsh spoke into the quiet. We humans have a saying. Blood makes you related. Loyalty makes you family. Pip has chosen his family, and we have chosen to stand with him. You cannot protect it forever, Kalas said. The Empire has resources you cannot imagine. Reach you cannot escape. Maybe, Derek said, but we are going to try anyway, because that is what families do. Kalas stood. The motion was sudden and powerful. You have 48 hours to reconsider. After that, the Empire will take action. He looked at Pip one last time. This is mercy, hatchling. Death is kinder than the life you are choosing. The Drackery delegation left. The conference room felt larger and colder in their absence. Pip climbed into Derek's lap and buried his face against his father's chest. Did I do good? Pip whispered. Derek held him tight. You were so brave. I'm so proud of you. Are they going to take me away? No, Derek said. He made a promise. Whatever happens, we face it together. The 48 hours passed like years. Derek barely slept. He sat in his quarters watching Pip sleep, memorizing every scale and claw. If the worst happened, he wanted to remember everything. But the galaxy had other plans. The transmission came from deep Drackery space, bypassing official channels. It appeared on every screen across New Terra simultaneously. Derek was in the mess hall when it started. The room fell silent as faces appeared on the display. Young Drackery. Dozens of them, some barely older than Pip. Each one stood before the camera and showed their imperfections. A missing horn here. Mismatched scales there. Wings that did not quite match. Tails that bent wrong. My name is Vara, said a young female with one eye slightly smaller than the other. I was supposed to die when I hatched. My parents hid me instead. I have lived in secret for 6 years. Another dragon stepped forward. I am Noth. My wings are different colors. I was told this made me worthless. I believed it until I saw Pip. One by one they spoke. Each story was different, but the pain was the same. Children who grew up thinking they deserved death. Families torn apart by shame and tradition. A culture built on the lie that perfection was possible, that difference was disease. We will not hide anymore, Varus said. Pip showed us that we deserve to exist, that our worth is not measured by our genetics. The transmission ended. The mess hall erupted in conversation. Derek sat frozen, trying to process what he had just witnessed. Pip had become a symbol. His survival had given hope to dragons who thought they were alone. Commander Walsh's voice crackled over the station intercom. Derek Hayes to the command center. Immediately, Derek ran. He found Walsh staring at multiple displays, each showing different news feeds. Drackery space was in chaos. The secret transmission had spread everywhere. Young dragons were coming forward by the hundreds. Parents were confessing to hiding imperfect children. The Empire's carefully controlled narrative was collapsing. This is bigger than one baby dragon, Walsh said quietly. This is a cultural revolution. Another message came through. This one was official. Envoy Kalas requested an emergency meeting. He arrived alone this time, without his warriors. He looked older somehow, tired. The situation has changed, Kalas said. He would not meet anyone's eyes. There are protests in 3 major cities. Young Dracari are refusing to submit to genetic screening. Some families are claiming asylum on neutral worlds. He paused. The council demands I recover the hatchling before more damage is done. The damage was already there, Derek said. Pip just made you look at it. I have orders to take him by force if necessary. Walsh stood. Then you'll have to go through every human on this station. We have all voted. Pip stays. Kalas finally looked up. You would risk war for one defective child. He is not defective, Amy said from the doorway. She held Pip's hand. The dragon had insisted on coming despite Derek's objections. He is perfect exactly as he is. Pip walked forward until he stood before Kalas. The size difference was absurd. The envoy could crush the hatchling with one hand. But Pip stood his ground. I have a question, Pip said. Did you ever have someone you loved who was different? Kalas's expression flickered. That is not relevant. I think it is. Because you are hurting. I can see it. Pip tilted his head. Who did you lose? Silence stretched between them. Finally, Kalas spoke. My brother. He hatched with eyes that did not match. Gold and green instead of both gold. My parents told me he died of illness. The envoy's voice was hollow. I was 12 before I learned the truth. That they had killed him themselves. That genetic purity was more important than his life. I am sorry, Pip said softly. Saw thee? Kalas's laugh was bitter. You are what he could have been. A living reminder of what we destroy in the name of tradition. Then maybe it is time to change tradition, Pip said. Maybe it is time to stop hurting each other. Another transmission arrived. This one made Kalas go very still. It was from Admiral Thross, commander of the Dracari battle group. He appeared on screen in full military uniform. Envoy Kalas, Thross said, I am hereby relieving you of command. I will not follow orders to attack those protecting a child. He paused. My sister was culled for having a crooked spine. I have carried that shame for 40 years. No more. The Empire can court-martial me if they wish. I will not be part of this anymore. Kalas stared at the screen. This is mutiny. This is conscience, Thross said. Something we forgot we had. More messages flooded in. Other ship commanders declaring they would not fire on New Terra. Scientists publishing data showing genetic diversity strengthened populations rather than weakening them. Historians revealing that ancient Dracari had not always practiced culling. The tradition was only 300 years old, started by one emperor's paranoia. Kalas looked at Pip. Really looked at him. At the bent tail and crooked wing. At the bright intelligence and golden eyes. At the courage it took for something so small to stand before something so large. What have we done? Kalas vi spirit. What have we become? You became afraid, Derek said. But fear can be unlearned. Pip is proof of that. Kalas knieled slowly. He was still enormous, even kneeling. He extended one clawed hand toward Pip. The hatchling hesitated, then placed his tiny paw in the envoy's palm. On behalf of the Dracari Empire, Kalas said, I apologize. You deserve better. You all deserve better. Pip's eyes filled with tears. Does this mean I can stay with my father? Kalas looked at Derek. He is a better father than any pureblood Dracari who would throw you away. Yes, you can stay. The tension that had gripped New Terra for weeks finally released. People cheered. Some cried. Amy hugged Rachel. Luis pumped his fist in the air. Derek knelt and opened his arms. Pip flew into them, wings beating awkwardly but joyfully. Father and son held each other while history changed around them. We won, Pip asked. We won, Derek confirmed. You are home. You are safe. You are loved. And for the first time in his short life, Pip believed it. 6 months changed everything. New Terra Outpost transformed from forgotten station on the edge of nowhere into a symbol of hope across the galaxy. Ships arrived daily, carrying Dracari youth fleeing traditionalist families. Each one found sanctuary among humans who believed that every life mattered. Pip stood at the observation window, watching new arrivals disembark. He was bigger now, nearly the size of a large dog. His scales had filled out with proper nutrition. The crooked wing and bent tail remained, but they no longer seemed like flaws. They were part of who he was. Nervous? Derek asked. He stood beside his son, coffee in hand. Real coffee, not the synthetic stuff. New Terra could afford luxuries now that they had become famous. A little, Pip admitted. Sarah is coming today. Suha, Pip's biological sister. One of the perfect hatchlings from that destroyed ship. She had reached out 3 weeks ago with a message that shook Pip to his core. She wanted to apologize. Wanted to meet the brother she helped condemn. The shuttle landed. Passengers filed out into the arrival bay. Pip spotted her immediately. She was beautiful in the way Dracari were supposed to be. Symmetrical scales, perfect wings, a tail that curved with mathematical precision. She looked around nervously until her eyes found Pip. They stared at each other across the crowded bay. Years of hurt and confusion passed between them in silence. Then Sarah walked forward. Her movements were hesitant, nothing like the confident Dracari Pip remembered from hazy memories of the ship. "Hello, Pip," she said. Her voice was soft, ashamed. "Hello, Sarah." They stood there awkwardly. Derek gave Pip's shoulder a gentle squeeze and stepped back, giving them space. "I did not know where to start," Sarah said. "I was 5 when you hatched. Old enough to know what was happening. Old enough to speak up." Her eyes filled with tears. "I said nothing. I let them hurt you. I let them throw you away. You were a child too," Pip said. "That is not an excuse. I watched them burn you with energy prods when you cried. I watched them starve you. I stood silent when they decided death was better than having an imperfect brother." Sarah's voice broke. "I'm so sorry. I know sorry is not enough. But I need you to hear it." Pip felt old anger stirring, but he also felt something else. Understanding. "You were taught that I was worthless, that my differences made me dangerous. How could you think differently when everyone around you said the same thing? I could have tried. I could have questioned." "You are questioning now," Pip said. "You came here. That took courage." Sarah looked around the arrival bay, at humans helping dragon refugees find their way, at children of different species playing together, at a world that made no sense according to everything she had been taught. "The humans are strange," she said. "They see a broken dragon and think, how can we help instead of how can we dispose of it properly? I did not understand them." Derek stepped forward. "We are not that complicated. We just believe everyone deserves a chance, even the ones who make mistakes." He looked at Sarah, even sisters who stayed silent when they should have spoken. "Serais composure craquée." She began to cry. Pip hesitated only a moment before stepping forward and wrapping his wings around her. They were not the same size anymore. He was small and crooked. She was large and perfect. But in that moment, they were just siblings finding each other again. "I watched your broadcasts," Sarah whispered. "Saw you standing up to Envoy Kalas. You were so brave. You made me realize how much of a coward I had been." "You are here now," Pip said. "That is what matters." The weeks that followed brought more changes. Sarah worked with other reformed Dracari to establish support networks for refugees. Amy expanded her school to accommodate students of all species. Louise built habitats suited to different physiologies. Rachel trained other doctors in cross-species medicine. Derek watched it all with quiet pride. His cargo ship sat unused in the docking bay. He had a new job now. Ambassador, they called him, though he thought of himself more as a professional hugger. So many young dragons needed someone to tell them they mattered. Pip grew into his role as well. He became a bridge between species, a living example that differences could be strengths. His crooked wing gave him unique flight patterns that confounded traditional Dracari aerial combat styles. His bent tail provided balance that perfect tails could not match. He was not better than other dragons, just different. And different was okay. One evening, Derek found Pip on the observation deck. The dragon was watching stars, wings folded peacefully. Derek sat beside him. "What are you thinking about?" Derek asked. "Everything. Nothing." Pip leaned against his father. "Did you ever imagine this would happen when you found me?" "Not in a million years," Derek admitted. "I just wanted to save one baby dragon. I did not mean to start a revolution. But you did. You saved me, and that changed everything." Derek wrapped an arm around Pip. "You saved yourself, kiddo. I just gave you a chance to do it." They sat in comfortable silence. Around them, New Terra hummed with life. Humans and dragons working together. laughter echoing through corridors that used to be empty, hope growing in places where despair had lived. "Father," Pip asked quietly. "Yes, thank you for not leaving me in the dark." Derek pulled his son closer. "Thank you for teaching me what real courage looks like, for showing everyone that compassion is not weakness. That love is not something you earn through perfection. Love just is." Pip made a happy rumbling sound. "Do you think other species are watching us? Learning from what we did here?" "I hope so," Derek said. "The galaxy could use more kindness." In the distance, another shuttle approached. More refugees seeking safety. More lives that would be changed by humans who believed that everyone deserved a chance. The work was never finished, but that was okay. Some things were worth the endless effort. Pip spread his wings experimentally. They caught the light from the observation window. Crooked and beautiful and perfectly imperfect. "I love you, Dad," Pip said. "I love you too, son," Derek replied. And in that moment, nothing else mattered. Not politics or species or genetic purity. Just a father and son watching stars together. Just a family built on choice rather than blood. Just hope that refused to die in the darkness of space. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Tonight brought peace, and that was enough.